It's been 24 long years since the release of the cinematic classic Gladiator, and I cannot believe here in the year 2024, we're here to talk about a sequel. So let's jump into the review of that film right now. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the new film Gladiator II, which is going to be releasing in the US in theaters November 22nd. Now, Ridley Scott, nobody does epics better than Ridley Scott. So with that being said, you hear Ridley Scott, you hear epic. Go see this in the biggest theater possible. I saw it in IMAX and it absolutely was worth the upgrade in terms of the visuals, in terms of the experience, in terms of the ride, because it is definitely an adventure, and you absolutely are just in spending those extra dollars to see it in the biggest and best screen possible. So Gladiator 2. Now, I think we can all definitively agree that Gladiator is a classic, and you know how we are about classics. Do we need a sequel? Do we need a reboot? Do we need a remake? A lot of the times the answer is no. I have to be honest, in hearing that there were going to be a Gladiator 2, I definitely did not jump out of my seat. I think everybody was very strangely optimistic because we didn't want to mess up the legacy, the integrity, or anything with the original. And I will say that, listen, here's my official on the record statement about Gladiator 2. Now, it ain't without flaws, but it definitely delivers plenty of intense, jaw-dropping moments with standout performances from Denzel to Mescal. The film just keeps you just thoroughly entertained from start to finish, offering sharp dialogue and expertly crafting fight scenes. So that being said, you will be thoroughly entertained. You don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to break all of it down, especially some of the flaws with the film. And then ultimately when I really got on board, because I did get to see some footage back at CinemaCon in Las Vegas. And, let's just call it what it was. The 4DX immersive experience, not really. But because the fact that we got to see footage inside of Caesar's Palace and, that right there is just kind of like, oh my God, is this really happening? And then we were like some of the first in the world to see it. And then ultimately we got to have an after party in the courtyard. It just felt very surreal, and it definitely piqued my interest because it's kind of like, this is really happening. And some of the epic scenes that we got to saw in that footage, like the sharks in the Colosseum, I mean, and that's definitely one of the big moments in the film. So you don't have to worry about that. It got me hyped, but I still continue to say, why do we need the sequel? And I will say that it is very important that you do check out the original, because not that I think this film did a bad job nor a good job, but you absolutely need to understand the motivation and the emotional connection with our protagonist in this in order to really understand a lot of his motivation. So, and that comes from the first film, and plus the first film is just damn good. So do yourself the justice if you haven't, and do so. And it'll be really cool if they re-released it sometime soon, just in case there was anybody that missed that bus. Now, it is around Oscar season, and are they going to make an Oscar push for this? I don't know, besides maybe performances. I mean, Denzel Washington, that's the name that when you hear on a big project with a big director, you start to say, what might they do here? And Maximus is his character. He does a fantastic job, but I got to be honest, Denzel does Denzel. He is a true legend. I would almost go as far as saying he is the GOAT, because he can play any character, any genre at any time. And so him stepping into this role, which I don't want to give too much away, I wasn't surprised. I was thoroughly entertained as I was expected. And I think in terms of betting on Denzel, you're always going to come out on a winning side in terms of what you can expect. But since we're talking about performances, I think Pedro is General Acacius, he was great. I really enjoyed it. Almost felt like the cherry on top with Pedro, because you knew he was a part of this film, and the moments that he was in the film, all eyes were on him. And I think while I'm jumping around a little bit, obviously the costume design, the set design, everything with the production is always going to keep you glued. But it was just something about him wearing the armor, something about him leading the troops that you just bought into. And yes, we love Pedro for all the different things that he's done, especially with The Mandalorian. But he also takes on these characters, and you don't see traces of any other previous roles that he's done. So I really thought Pedro was really the cherry on top. But we got to give flowers where flowers are due. And Paul Mescal as Lucius he's fantastic. He makes this film happen. The emotional pulls, the action, the fight choreography, because, you know, Denzel mentioned in the interview he didn't do his, but he said the young cats did. So I guess we're leaning towards Paul doing, if not most of his. Paul was great. Up and down the board, Paul was great. And there's so many others I could talk about here. The Emperors, I thought, really were just two folks that you just continue to dislike the entire film. That means they're doing something right. I would say Connie returning, stepping back into her role as Lucilia. I mean, like, she hasn't missed a beat. And the moment she has really hit you in the feels, and I think it really bridges the continuity between the two films. Yeah, performances up and down the board, they didn't miss, as you would expect. With Ridley, he does epics great. I will be honest and say, there was times that the CGI was definitely noticeable. Very early in the film, I was a little like, whoa, not him, like not nailing the visuals here. There was definitely some that you just could not, and I get it. Like, yes, I understand when this film is taking place, but like, we've progressed so good in technology that now it looks so believable. But there was definitely moments just kind of like, yeah, that looks very CG, you know. But that being said, I thought like the opening was impressive, but yet predictable, but I enjoyed it. I thought there was a lot of like moments that felt very rushed. I gotta be honest, just jumping to the end, the ending felt very flat to me. It's almost as if like we're opening up another chapter. And before I even get into all that, because I'm jumping around a little bit here, this does take place 2 decades after the events of the first Gladiator. And talking about Paul's character, Paul is living in this town with his wife and child. Then the Roman soldiers comes in, they claim more land, they end up killing his wife. Paul's character now becomes a slave, and in terms of him getting his freedom and yet revenge to, well, the general that led that army through his town to enslave his folks and kill his wife, he has an opportunity by being a gladiator under the teachings of Maximus, and, you know, becoming that next premier gladiator. But he also has his self-motivations, and, you know, there's so much more to that, but I'm not going to give it away, because just know that the plot is very layered. It definitely has some reveals. It definitely has connections to the first. There's just things in the synopsis I think I wouldn't have given away. I didn't read the synopsis at all before watching the film, but I will think that, like, yeah, there's some surprises within the plot, but yet still very predictable. There's a lot of tropes in the beginning that you're just like, oh, I know what happens here, and you just it's just hard to get away from what you know if you watch enough films. But yeah, the fight choreography was good. I also think that, like, when you go back to Paul's character, I think like Lucius, I think his motivations, the angers and what's just driving him forward, I think it's something you just buy into. There's moments of black and white that they hit with the film, and I think that they used it beautifully. Visually, everything looks good, except for sometimes I said like the heightened CG. They got these insane monkeys, so things get brutal. And with these monkeys, also CG, which also didn't look the best, like, but you still was just kind of on edge because of just the action that was kind of going on with everything. Like, yes, the film doesn't show mercy at all. They do not, under no circumstance, take the easy way out. They go there in every moment. I think that one other thing I want to say about Paul's performance, like, you really do buy into everything that he's going through emotionally right through his eyes. Like, you feel the anger through his eyes, you feel the sadness in his eyes, all of it. He really does his thing. And I think, again, the more and more that his story, the mystery behind his backstory and everything comes and unfold, seeing those progressions through his eyes, I think really is just a testament to like his performance. He does a really, really good job. But yeah, truly edgy to see action, suspense. There was no iconic moments in the Colosseum in terms of that very one statement that you want to take from the film. Yes, they did attempt those moments, but there was definitely not one that I was like, that's the one everybody's going to be talking about. But of course, you're going to have those moments where somebody in the Colosseum's having their monologue and they're yelling to the top of their lungs, whatever it's going to be. Yes, you have that. You have the thumbs up, thumbs down. You know, it is still the Greek Colosseum, so you're going to have all those different things. You will have the callbacks to the original. You will have some artifacts from the original, I will say, too. And then you do have, again, some people reprising their roles. So there's a lot of depth in this film. There's definitely some cool actions. There's definitely some moments that are shot that's really, really cool. I think the film was good, not great. The ending was flat, but I definitely think it's worth a watch. And then again, when it comes down to the Oscar push, I think you take a look at Denzel because of the name, although I think Paul's performance should definitely be one in discussions. I think possibly cinematography could possibly be involved with this as well too. I think the score was okay. But you know, we'll see. It's definitely one of those, like, I don't want to say clickbaity, but it's definitely one of those, like, this reeks award season just because of the boxes that it checks. So we will see. But Gladiator 2, it is here, folks. I can't believe it. 24 long years, and I don't think I asked for this, but now that it is here, I would say check it out and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And then after that, stay tuned because we got more reviews and content coming here at Big Old Belt Media very, very soon. Thank you for watching, folks.